a few days ago, I was listening to a talk by Eckhart Tolle, and he was teaching people how to meditate with their eyes wide open. And I thought that was quite interesting because he made a very interesting point on how it's so easy to associate mindfulness or meditation with having the eyes closed, sitting in a particular posture. And I'm assuming most of us usually have our eyes closed during practices such as this. But the point he was trying to make is that the moment we open our eyes, we step into a completely different zone and feel as though the meditation is over, the mindfulness session is over, and then we get caught up in the next moment and the moment after that, believing it to be a completely separate chapter in our day. But as we often try to remind ourselves, and let's begin with that reminder that this hour that we spend together, we create a lab of sorts, sort of like an experiment where we switch off many of the distractions we normally have control over. And so you'll notice we've asked those people around us for privacy. We've switched off the televisions, the radios, the podcasts, the books are closed. And there's no more of that usual browsing of the internet. And these are all normally, in a practice such as these are normally seen as distractions that take our attention away from simply observing the mind. And you'll probably notice that most of these things that we have stepped away from, that we have muted, that we have silenced, they're normally things that stimulate the mind. And so it's almost as though if you can imagine a bucket of water or the water in your bathtub, you're waiting for the ripples to steady themselves, you're waiting for the stillness to arise. And then you're just about to see the reflection. It's just about to become as still as that mirror so that you can see clearly underneath. You can see the top reflect off it. And then you begin to play with the water. You stick your hand in or you switch on the tap again, and then the ripples begin. And that's what we often do with our mind. We continue to stimulate it. The news stimulates it. And I'm assuming conversations normally stimulate the mind because we like conversations to be interesting. Sometimes we simply like to disagree and debate something or the other, and these cause ripples. But when I ring the bell, let's be a little bit more aware that we have muted, we have switched off some, but not all of these distractions. Here comes the bell. And when you hear the bell, notice those other things that you have little control over. There are the sensations within your body. Of course, I hope you're comfortable. And if you're not, feel free to adjust your body's posture. Because just as we reminded ourselves how Eckhart Tolle said we often associate meditation with the eyes being closed, some of us, we associate meditation with a particular type of posture, maybe sitting cross-legged on the floor or something else. But our purpose is to just simply notice the body a little bit less. So release all of these rules that you normally have when it comes to a practice. Adjust your body, give yourselves permission so that you notice your body just a little bit less. Still tuning into the energy field called life. But finding that posture whereby you're no longer forcing a particular joint to be in a particular way, or your spine to hold a particular posture that's not that comfortable. Just listening to your body. Releasing that very reason you came here for. You came here to practice meditation. You came here possibly to practice mindfulness. But let's distinguish, because sometimes it's almost as though it was something that was planned in the timetable. If I came here to do something, just like I have an appointment to have breakfast with so-and-so, I have scheduled to finish off a particular project at that time. And then you've scheduled this meditation, and then it's very easy to get caught up in that momentum where you feel you have to accomplish something during this hour. And with meditation, it's almost certain that most of us have definitions such as a still mind, releasing stress and worry, and the definitions, they go on and on depending on the teachers we've been with, the books we've read. But the Zen teachers, they have a beautiful way of explaining this practice. They simply call it sitting. Not meditating, not mindfulness. They just say sitting. And so we're here to sit. And then suddenly it becomes a little bit more manageable, because we all know how to sit. Of course, some of us may have limitations within our body that, and if that's the case, then lie down. But either way, All we're going to be interested in during this practice is either sitting here or lying down here in this present moment called the now. The only difference between this moment and many of those other seating moments that we've had in the past is we're simply going to be a little bit more aware that we are sitting here. More through a sensory level than visually. So you don't even, you can release all those visualizations, because as we talk about sitting or lying down, you'll notice images arising within your body, attempting to make sense of this posture, but release these. And my voice, I'll guide you through this in bite-sized bits. And you can start with your spinal column. Find your spinal column. Notice the way in which the vertebrae they stack one on top of the other. How the spinal column it appears to form the core of your body. And whether you're sitting or lying down, find the tail end of your spinal column. And try burying it downwards, digging it downwards, either into your seat, or the mattress underneath you. And then the top end of your spinal column, stretch it upward. You might even hear a few creaks as you stretch the spine comfortably. And from the spinal column, find your shoulders. And from your shoulders, find the placement of your arms. And again, once you've reached your shoulders and your arms, you're awakening the skin that bathes these areas. You're awakening the flesh underneath the skin, the muscle underneath the skin, the nerves, the bone. So that you're more aware of the bend around your elbow, the placement of your hands and your palms. And as you heighten the sensations around your hands, whether it's your palms or the back of your hands, you begin discovering that surface upon which your hands are resting. What lies underneath the skin? What lies underneath the flesh? What lies underneath the muscle? And how do you know the bones are there? If you were to retire back into a sensory experience of this whole region. Releasing everything that you ever learned about the arms and the hands and simply experiencing them. You might even begin getting glimpses into the life within this region that allows you to experience all that you are experiencing, almost as though it were an energy field. If your arms and your hands are resting on a particular body part, you might experience the warmth and the heat of that body part. And if your arms or hands were being supported by a piece of furniture or fabric, it is that texture that you will be experiencing along with temperatures and so much more. Almost as though you were putting together a jigsaw puzzle, experiencing the arms, the shoulders, the hands, and now the neck. Where the top end of the spinal column sits within, connecting itself to the base of the skull. Find the placement of your head, its balance, its tilt, the ability of the neck and the spine to support the head. Noticing your ability to relax your neck muscles. As this becomes more a balance, an exercise in balance than in effort, the very holding up of the head. Explore your face with the facial muscles, the bones underneath, the jaws, the teeth, the scalp and the ears. Again, tapping into that energy field, which allows you to see the shadows through your eyelids, that is, if your eyelids are shut. That energy field of awareness that allows you to hear the sounds around you, that allows you to experience the production of saliva within your mouth and the swallowing process and the breathing process, the various sensations around the nasal passage and the nostrils. Reaching to the back of the head, the base of the skull, where we once again find the spinal column. And then working our way downwards, vertebra by vertebra, so that you begin to get a glimpse into the arch of the spine, through the upper back, the mid regions of the back, the lower back, all the way down into the tail end of the spinal column, which rests on the pelvic bone. Are you getting a slightly better glimpse into this process called sitting? Now exploring the legs, the whole pelvic region, the knee joint, the ankles, the soles of the feet, and all of the tiny bones within the feet. And now when I ring the bell, finding your whole body sitting here as a whole body of awareness, releasing the images, but simply experiencing the energy field within. We refer to it as an energy field simply because the food is the fuel, and somehow it produces electrical pulses that move through the body. Forming the essence of what we experience at this moment. How does this benefit us? To now know that we've adopted this posture, that we are sitting, that we are perhaps more aware of the simple fact that we are sitting than maybe a few moments ago. All of the different dimensions involved, the different aspects of sitting here on these chairs, on these cushions. This becomes an opportunity to be present here in the now. And this is more profound than we can normally make sense of using the mind, simply because being present here in this moment it involves all of our attention being brought into this moment, which is experienced through our five senses. Up until this moment, we've explored the sense of touch through the different parts of our body until we experienced our bodies as a whole sitting here in these postures, breathing. And then we begin discovering through our ears all of the sounds that represent this present moment. There might be smells, there might be aftertastes of something that you consumed earlier on, or may perhaps even be taking sips of now. And the present moment involves the releasing of everything from the past, the releasing of everything from the future. But right now, we're simply intellectually understanding the present moment. Now let's begin experiencing the present moment a little bit more. And it begins by casting the spotlight on the mind. Notice where the mind is at this particular moment. You can actually begin by noticing whether there is anything about this present moment that you might be complaining about. Is there anything about this present moment that you do not like, that you would like to change? It could be a sensation within your body. It could be that you find yourself thinking about something that you preferred not to think about. It might even be thinking about something quite pleasant and nice, but then because of the definition that you have of meditation and mindfulness, because of all the descriptions that we have read about what meditation is, the quietening of the mind, the silencing of the mind, we find ourselves struggling against these thoughts, attempting to stop them, fight them. And so sometimes the present moment, the discomfort of the present moment can simply involve the mind thinking. But let's remind ourselves that in this practice, we play little games. And one of the games we can try playing is to simply pretend that the mind is is a separate entity, no different from the pieces of clothing that we wear, a tool, just like some of those kitchen tools that we use to cook, the pans and the whiskers and the peelers, a tool, a separate entity. And then we recognize that with most tools, we're just making an assumption here that the mind is a tool. They have appropriate uses. And so right now, notice the pieces of clothing that are on your body. You've dressed appropriately for a practice such as this. If you were outside, you might have dressed a little bit differently, especially if it was very cold and raining. And so you begin to recognize that the clothes in your wardrobe, you have the choice, the element of choice to choose which piece of clothing to use at any particular now moment. And so if it was raining, you might wear a particular type of shoes, a particular type of coat. And if it was scorching hot and warm, you might wear a particular type of fabric. And if it was snowing, you'd just dress appropriately. And then, in the same way, when you were cooking, you would use different tools according to the function you were trying to fulfill. Now, the moment when I ring this bell, if you were able to see your thoughts as a separate entity, notice where your thoughts are. For some of us, we might be lucky enough to find the mind aligning itself into this present moment. And you'll normally recognize this because it feels very still, very safe, very comfortable. Because after all, you're sitting here in relative comfort. You're breathing. You've got these incredible devices. You're in quite a nurturing space, surrounded by like-minded practitioners. And so in this present moment, there appears to be more that's right than wrong. But then you'll notice things like, for most of us, it usually falls into one of these categories: finances, relationships, or health. You might notice the mind visiting one of these areas, saying that, no, this isn't quite that perfect because this is going on or that is going on. But with the ringing of this bell, notice that you are thinking about that from this present moment. That your body is actually here, which is why we use our senses as our doorways into the present moment. And that's what you'll find my voice doing. My voice will tend to guide you back into this present moment. But my voice will also direct you to observe these movements within the mind. Not to get you caught up in thought, but to simply notice some of the qualities of thinking and thought. How thought almost always has to do with either the past or the future. And you'll find that if there is a complaint about something that's happening in this present moment, it's usually because this present moment is being compared to some moment in the past or the future. And so every time we notice a complaint, we know that we have somehow got sucked back into the thinking process. And this simply means an identification with the tool, with the mind. Almost as though we were identifying ourselves with that, with those rubber boots that we were supposed to wear when we were taking a walk in the woods, where it was very muddy and stormy. Forgetting that the boots can simply be removed at the end of the day with a new pair of slippers or something else being worn that's appropriate to the next moment. And so all distress, all anxiety, all worry, all stress, now taking on a new meaning in our lives, all simply indicators that we have fallen back into identifying ourselves as the mind, as the piece of clothing. Now that we are getting a little glimpse into the nature of the mind, now that we've somehow stepped away from the televisions and the phones and the people and the conversations, there is less stimulation occurring within the mind. And an opportunity to simply observe its current momentum, its current movements. Let's use a metaphor, which we often use, that of the stream. Let's all begin at the same place. One of those moments that we found ourselves caught up in the stories in our life. The anxieties, the worries, the anger, the sadness, one of those or perhaps more. Within this stream, that represents us being carried by the currents of the stream. And when we are carried with the stream, that's an example of identification with thoughts, with the thought stream, with the currents of the stream. Because you are moving with these waters, completely oblivious that there is a world around you, a space around you that is not moving, that is still, that is so much larger. And usually when we're caught up in one of these stories, the breathing becomes a little less natural. The heartbeat might be quicker, and a whole number of different chain reactions occur within the body that point towards stress and worry. Takes the form of gastric juices, butterflies in the stomach, and all of that. Let's all be beginners today in this practice. So we all simply acknowledge that we go through one or more of these emotions. And the first thing we do is to simply recognize that we're separate from the stream. Because when you're caught up in the middle of the story, you'll notice yourself kicking and punching and struggling, and you're doing so much of this, you almost forget that you're in a stream. The water seems so much deeper because of all the splashing, the water entering in through your nose and your mouth. When I ring this bell now, once again return back to your body. Find the surfaces around your body. And so find the fabric of clothing that wraps itself around you. Find the thin layer of warm air trapped underneath the fabric, between skin and fabric. Find the surfaces of the chairs and the cushions and the mattresses underneath you. And then find the air that blankets your body, in particular those parts of the body that are directly exposed to the space, to the air around you. Using the metaphor of the stream, what you'll find is the outline of your body. You'll find the water brushing against the skin. Remember, it's a stream, so that nothing bad can happen. It's so shallow. It's just that you haven't recognized it as being shallow. And so you feel the water brushing against your skin, the same way you feel the air and the fabric against your skin right now. And then it gently and gradually begins to dawn on you that, wait a second, I'm separate from this stream. And you're feeling a little bit better, just a little bit better, even though you're still being carried by the stream. There is a little bit of space that is beginning to show itself around the mind. You relax your body. You release all of that tension and tightness that came with the kicking and punching and struggling. Here's a bell to help you. Start with your joints, your elbows and your knees loosening. And now the skin and the flesh and the muscle. And now the bone, surrendering the skin, the flesh, the muscle and the bone to the forces of gravity. So that you no longer need to kick, punch, splash around. And when you look around you, you begin to recognize that other world around you, that other space around you that is not moving. And in this clarity, it begins to dawn on you that you could possibly stop moving, that it's more natural to not be moving with the stream than to be carried by the stream. Because the trees don't appear to be moving, the banks of the stream don't appear to be moving, the grass and the flowers and the mountains and all the rest that appear around you do not appear to be moving. And so you stretch your legs downwards and your arms upwards to reach out for the banks of the stream or for roots or low-lying branches, just so that you can stop moving, just so that you can anchor yourself. And that is what this practice, that is why this practice is called a practice. Because you are seeking out that branch, that root, which represents the present moment. That root, that branch, does not represent the whole present moment, but just a part of the present moment that you need to hold on to. Because the present moment is so much more. Without borders, without limits. Every previous moment, once a present moment, every future moment, also to be experienced only as a present moment. That branch we find, and there is more stillness. As we begin to stand, steadying ourselves, balancing ourselves, even smiling as we discover that the water just comes up to the shins, not even the knees. It's such a shallow stream, perceived to be so much more deeper and so much more dangerous once upon a time when we were caught up in the story. And in our own lives, most of us have been through these periods where the challenges, the contrast appeared almost too much to bear. And there was a lot of that kicking and screaming and struggling and anxiety and fear, but because it's a stream, we made it through. And now we release that past and be a little bit more aware and present of here in this now moment. And for most of us, it's sometimes nice to just stand here in the middle of the stream, just feeling the water brush against the ankles. And it's quite safe to assume that many of us are at this stage of the practice, just rising above thoughts and just enjoying this new vantage point of the water brushing against the ankles and the shins. And because we're not supposed to be meditating, not supposed to be mindful, it means it doesn't matter if the thoughts continue to flow. That reason why we released these labels such as mindfulness and meditation is because there's often an association that we shouldn't even let the stream flow, that we should try to build a dam to stop this stream from flowing. so that we may experience what we've read our teachers to have experienced, whether it was Christ or Muhammad or Buddha or Krishna or Eckhart Tolle. Instead, we're just aware of this flow, aware that this flow is separate from the witness. And now we look around us. We spent enough time staring at the stream. Now let us discover the space around the stream. And it's best not to think about it too much. It's best to simply take that first step onto the banks of the stream. Just because the more we think about it, the more reasons we'll find to stay within the stream that has, up until now, because of the level of identification with the mind, almost become what many teachers refer to as a comfort zone. We feel supported. Even in the chaos, there's still that. It's all we've known. But now when I ring the bell, instead of analyzing and thinking and believing, as many of us often believe, that I need to read more books before I can be present, I need to find out more philosophy. I need to read this and that and listen to this podcast. And then we find ourselves caught up in the stream, telling ourselves that we will practice later. And so with the ringing of this bell, simply begin taking steps out of the stream. You hold on to the branch called the present moment. You pull yourself out. How many steps would you like to take away from the stream? Mentally take 9 steps. Why don't you try 9 steps away from the stream? 1 and 2 and 3, and then the 4th step, and you feel the grass underneath you. You feel the stability. You feel your strength returning, your body adapting. And a 5th and a 6th and a 7th step. And the sun, it begins to dry your skin and your clothing. All the droplets of memories of past and future, they begin to evaporate. And the 8th and the 9th step, completely dry, completely present, aware of the grass, aware of the miles and miles of uninterrupted fields of grass and flowers and forests that lead on to hills and mountains with sky behind it. Stabilizing by finding the posture that you're in right now, but 9 steps away from the stream, which represents the space where you still witness the stream through the sounds in the background. There's bubbling, there's gurgling, there's flowing. You can hear the little twigs and pebbles being carried by the currents. But it no longer matters Because you know that the stream, everything contained within the stream is not fact, but simply movement flowing through your awareness. Bring your attention to your breath, because your breath will help you to ground yourself a little bit deeper into the present moment. At the beginning of this practice, we tapped into the sensations around our body, our skin. Now tune into the sensations within the nasal passage, within the rings that are the nostrils. And visualize the breath entering in. Visualize the breath moving up your nasal passage and then bending downwards, moving through your throat, your windpipe, moving through your lungs. And when it moves through your lungs, you feel the rising and the falling of your rib cage and your chest muscles. As the breath makes its way down through the stomach, you experience the rising and the falling of the stomach wall. You experience the ballooning of the insides, rising and falling. And because this is your visualization, you can continue to lower your body's center of gravity by allowing your breath to flow through your pelvic region and down into the surfaces underneath you. In fact, deeper and deeper and deeper into the earth underneath you. Feeling the stability of being here, still getting used to the new momentum called the present moment. And then reminding yourself that one crucial and important part of this practice is to simply recognize that you will slip back into the stream. And that crucial part of the practice is to simply be easy with yourself when that happens. Because you have experienced what it's like to be outside of the stream. It's an experience. And you now know that you have all of the tools that you could ever need to be present. To separate yourself from the stream. To rise above the thought stream. To step outside of the stream. Maybe taking 3 steps this time, maybe taking 12 steps, maybe taking many, many more steps into stillness, into awareness, into presence. But just knowing that you've done it once, twice, 3 times. And then in presence, recognizing how every moment is the only moment. And so every moment you find yourself in the stream, It becomes the first moment whereby you step out of the stream, ever present in this moment called the now. No longer frustrated, no longer impatient, but simply allowing. And now the final bell. At the beginning of this practice, we call this our little lab. Now it's time to take off those lab coats. It's time to draw the curtains. Let the walls fade away. And bring this presence with us into this moment and the next moment and the moment after that, from moment to moment and breath to breath. And that's it. Thank you all for joining in this practice. Deeply appreciated as always. Didn't hear you, Danielle. Take care, my dear friends. Have a lovely, lovely few weeks. And just in case you'd like to continue with the practices that I do, most of them are on, you'll find them in mindfulness.zone, the website. Many of these sessions have been recorded and put directly there. So take care. And welcome again, Angie. Thank you, Vinod. It's a pleasure. Bye-bye. Bye, Frank. Bye, Janice. Bye, Angela. Take care.